Okay.
All right. Hello.
Hello to you too.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's patience.
It's under Elora.
It is under Laura.
This is Annie. Hold on a second.
Oh, certainly. Take your time. We have a little bit of time. Pardon me while I pop back and forth between places. I am live streaming this today to the Madame Askew page. So you'll be able to review it later and share it. It'll be part of the archive. And Monsieur Gatto is here to be part of things. So,
as he should be.
As he should be. So thank you for your patience. The live stream to Facebook is being slightly recalcitrant, as it is sometimes wont to be. There we go. I try and have it up on the Facebook page so I can check the comments if there are any. Hello, I'm so happy you're here. All right, we do have a few moments until we start officially. So, oh, and dear Lady June Squirrel, I see you are wearing your beautiful unicorn horn. Yes. Official book club headgear.
It did seem like a unicorn horn kind of day.
It is, I agree. All right, can you all hear me? All right.
Yes.
Good. And Madeleine is here already, our wonderful guest. So good.
Hello, wonderful guest.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We're so pleased to have you here. All right. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, you're welcome to join us in the Zoom chat. That link and information is in the event page. If you don't care to join us in Zoom, that's all right. I will be watching for your questions. Hello, Robin. I have just a few minutes until we officially start. I'm going to ask you all, once we get started, to mute yourselves when you're not speaking. And I'll make a note of that again. It just helps us be able to hear a bit better. Yes!
Oh, it's the plague mask. How lovely. Yes.
I love it. Prepare
a plague mask.
everything.
And a cattail doing this.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, Cindy. Hello. It's very bright up where you are at.
Yes, yesterday was solstice, so we have a lot of daylight.
Arbiter has been quite irritated by the amount of daylight he's experiencing right now.
Well, if you're a vampire, you don't like that much daylight.
No, it's why vampires would never survive in the Pacific Northwest. Literature to the contrary. So, all right, good. Very good. Hello, Beatrice. Hello, Corolius. Hello. Hello, my friend. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
All right, we have a nice little crowd here, and we are officially started. So, and welcome to everyone watching on Facebook Live as well. So, and welcome to our dear guest, Madeleine. It's so good to have you here with us. Thank you so much. Let me just adjust this a bit. All right. Does everyone have their tea?
I have iced tea.
Black
I
cow.
have no tea.
Oh no! Oh no!
Run, Robin, run.
You must have tea.
Excellent. Good. And I'm watching to see if anyone else pops in, of course.
June is muted. She was saying something, but she's muted.
I didn't say anything.
All right. No.
I'm just showing my drink.
Your drink, La Croix.
La Croix. Limoncello, La Croix.
Oh, perfect.
La la.
I will ask that everyone mute themselves when you're not speaking, and that way we'll have less over chatter and less background noise, which will help us have a bit of a better conversation. I will call on you by name, so you'll know who I am. Although Moto G6, it's a mouthful. All right, very good. Well, let's get started. Hello, David. Hello, Amy. Everyone watching on Facebook Live. Oh, good. We have a few people popping in. Excellent. Okay. As David is connecting. So, Madeleine, I have known you for years now.
Years.
Actually.
Absolutely.
The steampunk community, and because of the format of book club in the past, I haven't really been able to have you as a book club guest, so this is really wonderful to be able to have you, a big treat. And I'm so grateful that you can make the time for us.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Could you tell us a little bit about how long you've been creating the Boston Metaphysical Society and what first inspired you to start writing these stories?
Well, it actually began be about 11 years ago. I was at unplugging my phone here so we don't get the extra noise. I was in my third year in the MFA program for screenwriting at UCLA, and I was on the TV track, and I wrote a TV pilot that was originally called 1900 Detective Agency, and it was essentially a male and female private detective agency, supernatural elements. And a friend of mine suggested that I develop it in a steampunk world, steampunk setting. Now, I had heard of steampunk, didn't know a lot about it, so went out, did research, did a lot of reading, and decided he was absolutely right. This just fit everything that I love, because I love history, I love science fiction, and so I needed to change the name to embody what and who they were, and also represent the time period. So I came up with Boston Metaphysical Society. And, you know, it eventually became, you know, a story about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battled supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. The TV pilot that I wrote was shopped around and did well in various competitions and stuff, but wasn't picked up. So it was suggested I turned it into graphic novel form, and then try to sell it back. Well, little did I know that in the process of doing that, I fell in love with writing comics. So here I am. I mean, that's how it all started. Prelude, which you guys read for this month, was written while the original 6-issue miniseries was in development. And so what you're reading there was my way of developing canon for the entire world. I will note that it was the very first prose book that I self-published. So Yes, there are errors in it. Absolutely. It was my, as I call it, was my training ground on how to self-publish prose. And I learned a lot from that. So yeah, so when I eventually wrote the novel, Storm of Secrets, which is also a prequel to the graphic novel, I had learned a lot. I'll just say that. I had learned a lot.
Well, that's the process, isn't it?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
any sorts of art, the more you do, the
Mhm.
better you get. I didn't notice the mistakes, by the way. I was
Oh,
too
well, thank you.
engaged. I didn't feel any desire to do any copy editing, so
Well,
really good. Thank you.
thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just going to ask you more questions, so you can
Okay.
always just interject. And then once I've asked Madeleine a few questions, then I'll open it up to everyone and we'll have our regular conversation. But I thought it'd be nice to give you a little introduction and give Madeleine a moment to talk about her art so that you would all have a bit more insight. So you found steampunk through the course of doing your research for this
Correct.
project, but you've stayed for 11 years.
Yes.
And, so what keeps you coming back to steampunk?
The community. I mean, I love the community. You've all been extraordinarily supportive, and which makes me want to give back more. And so, through your support, I'm able to keep building, and uh, it's so much fun. And going to a steampunk convention for me is like a relief compared to a Comic-Con, because I'm sure you've all been to Comic-Cons. When I work at Comic-Con, I'm on my feet for basically 10 hours a day. And it's very sell, because that's what you got to do. And, at a steampunk convention, I have time to interact. I get to talk to people. I get to make friends I've made so many friends uh, from doing from Clockwork to Gaslight Gathering and became Gaslight Expo, and I did TeslaCon a number of years ago. It's just it's a wonderful community, and
I think I remember seeing you at TeslaCon and being so excited because we were both from the West.
it's like, yay!
My people. So I do want to open it up. I have one last question before we dive into the meatier topic.
Mhm.
Why Boston? I love that you use Boston, but I'm curious, is there a personal connection to Boston, or did you just thought it would be a good?
Well, it was the perfect place for the story. I wanted to. Boston Metaphysical Society is an American story, and I wanted to set it in a city where, when you said the name out loud to an American, it invoked an emotional response of like culture, mythology, and also Boston is a very intimate city. So it's really, the story needed to be set there. And yes, I've been there many times. I went to graduate school on the East Coast. So yeah, you do a lot of traveling, New York, Boston, all up and down that area. And I was also fortunate enough that while I was at UCLA, I had written a screenplay called Stargazer for this Sloan Fellowship. And if you're not familiar with the Sloan Fellowship, it supports film and scripts that depict scientists and engineers in a realistic way and not caricatures. And the science also has to be accurate. The script I wrote was called Stargazer, and it was about, and this is all going to ring very familiar to you in a few seconds, a Scottish American woman who arrived in this country in the late 1800s, pregnant, penniless, and abandoned by her husband. And she was hired as a maid in the house of the director of the Harvard Observatory because of her attention to detail, which he noted in her needlework, which was like incredibly precise. She was hired on as one of the female computers. That's what they called them back then. Her name was Mina Fleming. She's a real person. And she ended up discovering over 10,000 stars and developing her own stellar classification system. So I did an immense amount of research for Boston, late 1800s, a couple years before I wrote this. And literally my office was stacked full of stuff that I'd gotten from around the world to research for the script. And I am happy to say that I won the Sloan Fellowship. So yay.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's kind of like the root of where all of this came from.
I love it. Thank you, Madeleine. Well, I shall give you a moment's pause as we turn to our wonderful book club community here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your indulgence. I hope you enjoyed this part of the production. June, since you're an old hand at things, June is an OG book club member. She's been since the very first book club meeting 9 years ago. So, June, won't you please share something you loved about the book and something you might like to see more of?
Well, I haven't read the graphic novels, although I have supported your Kickstarter several times, and I suspect that I have some on my computer, and I did get the latest one.
Oh, Ghosts and Demons?
Yeah, in real form. But I need to go back, I think, after rereading the one we just read, the Prelude. I feel that I really need to read the graphic novels now to fill in all those bits. And I might also say that my mother was born in Boston in 1904.
Wow.
So I've only been to Boston once in my entire life. I'm a West Coaster otherwise. And it was a fascinating city, and I'd love to go back sometime. So I love the setting, and and the characters are wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, June. All right, Anne, are you ready? Excellent. So, Anne, what's something you liked about the book, and what's something you might like to see more of?
I like how you kept the young boy's attitude and wit the same as what he grows into. And I liked the sharpness of that. I don't know how to explain it. It's the feeling that I got from that I really enjoyed. And how quick he was, I can do it, about fixing the guy's clockwork heart.
Oh.
It amazed me that it was all still there. And I enjoyed that part of it. And I'm looking forward to graphic novels, because when I was young in the 70s, I was reading graphic novels, but they were like DC and Marvel. We didn't have the plethora we have now, like Buffy and You, and it's amazing. And so I am looking forward to reading the graphic novels as I come across them. So it's exciting.
Yeah, you're talking about Jonathan Weldsmore.
Yeah.
Yes. Jonathan, that was an interesting, because probably one of the people's favorites of the novellas is Steampunk Rat in Prelude, and where, Jonathan's, 15, and then you see him in the graphic novel, that's what it looks like. As an adult, he's Samuel's father. He becomes Samuel's Hunter's father-in-law, but he started out as such a minor character, and then he just he grew, and it's been really fun watching that character develop. So I'm glad you enjoy Jonathan. He's a very complex, intelligent man.
Thank you, Anne. All right, Robin, hello.
Hello.
So would you like me to repeat, or do you have your answer? Repeat the question. Would you like me to repeat the question, or you go?
Sure. Go ahead.
Please, it's all right. What did you like about the book, and what is something you'd like to see more of?
Well, I have a slight confession. I read the wrong book, which was the I got the Boston Metaphysical Society graphic novel. My husband bought it from you at Gaslight, and I thought that's what we were reading. And I realized that was not what we were reading an hour ago. So I am 137 pages in an hour. And going, must read, must read, must read, must read. Oh crap, I just missed my thing in this book club already.
It's all, you know,
No,
I'm never going to shame you about not finishing.
No, I actually really liked that we got a sense of Caitlin's father, Andrew. I really liked kind of the little bit about him coming in and kind of showing this was sort of his world, and also explaining Caitlin's mother, because you just kind of get a sense of her as in the graphic novel as, you know, being older and very hateful. Then you kind of understand who she was, and that kind of makes more sense and kind of fleshed out the character. So I did like that. I also like seeing Caitlin as a little girl playing with Duncan. I was like, so cute.
Yeah, you'll find what I try to do is I try to do everything as a standalone, but there's linkage between everything. And so if you read the graphic novels and the prose, it just enriches the whole world. So it's been interesting doing both.
Thank you, Robin. I like Caitlin too. She's a great character. So
You like because she's the redhead.
She's
awesome.
You're right. I'm always attracted to my fellow gingers. It's true. And I'm glad you enjoyed the graphic novel. I'm sorry about the crossed wires, but it's worked out. So it's good.
This last month has been so nuts. I thought I had the right book, and then it's like, oh, no, I don't.
No, it's all madness all the time right now. So.
But happy times. Happy
times. Right. All right. Thank you, Robin. Cindy, are you ready? Don't forget to unmute yourself, Cindy.
There. Okay. Had to click the right button.
So what did you like, and what would you like to see more of?
Well, I must say it, Steampunk Rat was my favorite of the stories. I love Tinker.
Yeah.
And I, read the book and then went, because I never looked at the graphic novels. I found the webcomic, and reading that, knowing the story from the Prelude made it easier to understand quicker where everything was. It was like, oh, I know this guy. Oh, okay, I know. Oh, that's what happened to them. So it really pulled me in and made me want to know more. I guess one thing that I really was interested in was the segregation of classes, not just physically in neighborhoods, but even their dress.
Yeah.
What you could and couldn't wear, not to get above yourself. Caitlin's mother,
Yeah.
you have to, don't be noticed, don't go above where you should be because something's going to happen to you. And just, how much of that is based in history itself, particularly the treatment of the Irish, which a lot of people don't focus on.
Yeah, the treatment of the Irish is pretty accurate. They were a lower class for quite a while during that same time period. So yeah, a lot of this is gleaned from straight from history, and then I do my own little twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
It is clearly an alternate history universe, and what I did was my jumping off point was the War of 1812, which, by the way, we actually lost. I mean, most people won't like. There's a big.
I'm Canadian, so
you don't care. You don't care. Yeah, the Brits say that
I think we burnt your White House down or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we lost that. we lost. But depending on which historian you're talking to, it will differ.
Mhm.
In my BMS world, we definitely lost. We admitted we lost, but what happened afterwards was because of the loss, the families that had the wealth and who controlled industry decided to slowly erode civil rights. And in order to, in their words, to strengthen our economy and strengthen us on the world stage. I had no idea this would be, you know,
Foreshadowing?
foreshadowing. Yes, I had no idea when I put this world together. And eventually it became a parliamentary oligarchy where there is a Congress, but the Congress is selected from the families of the great houses, which control the various industries around the country. And then they elect a president within themselves, much like parliaments do. And then that president has some veto power, but is mostly a power broker, a negotiator between different sides to get things done. The president in my world doesn't quite have as much power as the one in our real world. But so yeah, that's the very harsh cultural and social schisms that I developed for the world.
It was absolutely fascinating. It just pulled me right in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, we're going to go to Beatrix and Crowlius. Hello.
Greetings.
Hello.
Greetings. Hello, hello. So this question obviously is for both of you independently, as I know you shall each have your own opinions. But what did you like about the book and what would you like to see more of?
Well, my true confession for this month is that we had one copy and I did not budget my time well.
It's all right.
So I'm now going to turn the floor over to Crowlius.
Huh? Say what? Well, this is a twist. Usually Beatrice speaks for me, but anyway, I thought these were really super short stories, novellas. And it's hard to imagine them actually any longer because they were so fully packed with information and context. And it's very hard to imagine this taking place anywhere else other than in Boston. It really has the Boston feel to it. Like, hey, it would never like work the same way in New York. That would be such a really different thing. But it's perfect Boston, except the lack of molasses floods.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I love all the characters, right from the very first, the ironic twist of the assassin with the heart program to run down, and, his mission to go and explode himself at this family gathering at this rival house. And his victim turns around and says, "Oh, you've got a mechanical heart. Take a look," and fixes it up to life. And then that sets the guy thinking, well, if this is a lie, maybe everything I know is a lie. And all throughout the book, with the little side explanations and depictions of social structure and the discussion of how the government system, how the great houses control the commerce and everything, and hence the power and this and that. I really like the social consciousness. And of course, I also like Tinker the Rat. Yay, Tinker. And
Hold it there.
Oh, my specter is picking up a vagrant spirit. Oh no, it's my pet vole, Binky. Pinky appears every once in a while. Only I can see him.
Oh, Romulus, thank you so
It's
much.
like a terrible, unexpected death. When one day I put my shoes on in a hurry and Pinky was inside the shoe. And so every once in a while, his shadow still passes across the room. But, oh, I really like the series with Samuel Hunter. And I like the way that was going up until the end of the story. And the author, Madeleine, has a really great penchant for even describing gearworks and mechanical contrivances. I really liked it, such in the way Jonathan had put together the ship model and the idea of automated coal loaders and all of these types of things were all things that people at one time were working on, and a turbine engine and so forth. Yeah, so that was, everything about it was really enjoyable and very fascinating. So now I'm thinking I can go back and disregard everything my high school teachers told me about reading comic books and picking up some of these graphic novels.
Excellent. Well, and the artwork's beautiful too. So you get excellent storytelling from Madeleine and beautiful artwork. It's a wonderful combination, if I can say so much. Flattering.
Yeah, Emily Hugh, I'm going to give all credit to my artists here. Emily Hugh is the artist for the original 6-issue miniseries. And she stayed with me for like 4.5 years. We got this done. And then she moved on to bigger and better things and brought Gwen Tavares on for the last 3 sequels. First being Scourge the Mechanical Man, then we have Spirit of Rebellion, and the latest was Ghost and Demons.
Lovely. Thank you, Madeleine. All right, Bill, it's your turn. Hello, Bill.
Hello.
So good to have you back with us this month. We missed you last month.
Yeah, I'm sad that I missed last month too. Well, Madeleine, well done. This was a lovely read. I enjoyed it a great deal. I think my favorite character was probably Granville. Yeah. He really resonated with me, and I loved the Secretive Cage House story.
Okay.
Really, I mean, very, very tragic, sad ending, but sort of sad and sort of not at the same time. But that I found kind of intriguing, that whole concept. So yeah, thank you. It was a wonderful book to read. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, Secretive Cage House is a little more gothic than
Yes.
Steampunk, and it was meant to be that way because of where she's coming from. Demons of Liberty Row is the story of how Samuel and Granville first met and their first case together, and how they eventually became partners. I don't know if you know this, but Granville was a real person.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is a historical figure who I found in my research many years ago. He actually lived in Ohio and specialized in railroad switching technology. Since I'm the author, I brought him to Boston because I can do that.
Sure.
And I made him my science and tech guy. And I also didn't, want a Lily White story, quite frankly, because
and I appreciate that.
And because when you're telling an American story, you have to include women and people of color because they're part of our history and part of our story. And it's just, to me, it's ridiculous to omit them. Just because, character, organic conflict. I mean, why would you omit them? It just makes no sense to me. So
I do have one other question. The graphic novels, are they available through regular comic channels?
The trade paperback is. In fact, the trade paperback you can get, if you want it signed, you can buy it directly from me through my website, or you can get it through SourcePoint Press. SourcePoint Press picked up the original 6-issue miniseries a year ago, and it's actually going to drop in comic book stores on this week, June 24th.
Wow. Okay.
So it was
Great
in Diamond a few months ago. So if you want to go and support your local comic book store, yeah, you can order it through them if you like. The 3 sequels, yeah, either you'd have to get, if you want them signed, you get them directly from me, or you can get it through Amazon. If you want a print version.
Okay.
If you want a print version. If you want a digital version, Drive Through Comics.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, of all of it. SourcePoint has the trade, the 6-issue miniseries, and then just type in Boston Metaphysical and it'll all come up. It's just at this point they haven't picked up the sequels yet, and I'm not sure if they will. They may once we get past the quarantine and COVID-19 and life gets closer to normal. But yeah, I'm not sure where that's going yet. But
okay. Yeah, Drive Through Comics is a great option for me. So I'll get them there.
That's all digital. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Madeleine, congratulations on that release on the 24th.
Thank you.
I didn't plan that at all, but that's wonderful serendipity. So I'm glad we can sort of help you pre-celebrate.
Yeah, the pre-orders I think were in March, but yeah, you can. I mean, everything in the comic book industry is kind of like up in the air right now because Diamond has dropped the ball. DC's left Diamond, and SourcePoint is actually distributing through they have a different distributor now, and for the comic book stores, but you can always order directly from them, and they will be happy to send it to you.
Thank you. And I know that you shared some of those links originally on the event page. So if you go to the event for this month's book club, you'll find some of those links already for those of you who'd like to get graphic novels. All right, David, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Afternoon, madam.
It's very
Madeline?
good to have you.
Hey, David, how are you? Haven't
Fine,
seen you in a while.
I have been busy adventuring with my characters as well.
Oh,
And I have
great.
to say, I really do enjoy your book. As a matter of fact, actually, I just read the first chapter of
Storm of Secrets.
Exactly. And I think I got inspired to actually, I'm right now about to start my 4th book, and I got inspired by one of your characters.
Okay.
Excellent. So, David, did you read Prelude for this month?
Unfortunately, I hadn't got the chance to read, but I got sidetracked by reading other steampunk graphic novel like Lady Mechanica.
That's completely all right. Well, then, since you do know Madeleine and you know Madeleine's work, would you share something you love about her world that she's developed and something you'd like to see more of in her stories?
Well, I do love the world it's set in because in the 1890s and in the late Victorian era, like whole mess of technology was picking up steam with the invention of electricity, and of course in your world, the dirigible, and of course the use of the spirit camera. That was a big bump in technology, which I'm so totally a big fan of. And what I like to see more is that I like to see the characters like interact with with world interaction, like if they ever go to England, do they ever go to Paris, do they ever go to Germany? I like to see them meet with other famed scientists around the world.
Okay.
Because I find if they have if they have technology, which hopefully it never falls into the wrong hands, they can work with allies in England and Germany or in Russia or in France, and they can make the adventures more cooler.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons in the second sequel, The Spirit of Rebellion, they're in Philadelphia.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's my starting point of my characters. My characters
Yeah.
is set in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I took some big license on one of historical characters, Mother Jones. She is not a scientist. She was a labor rights and union lady who really pushed for unions because of child labor and abuse in the workplace. So yeah, I brought her back as actually a ghost. But yeah, she's in that's this one.
Oh yes.
Yeah, she's in Spirit of Rebellion because I moved them. One of the characters in Spirit of Rebellion you meet in Storm of Secrets. So when I was talking earlier about how everything being interlinked, I'm not kidding. You'll see one character at one point in their lives, and then you'll read something later, and if I haven't killed them, you'll see them, later on and where they're at. So
Excellent. Thank you. Great question, David. And great feedback. Lovely. Right. So, as usual, I'm going to put you all on the spot a little bit. So I want you to think about any questions you might have for Madeleine. I'll give you a few moments to think about them. I won't immediately pounce on you, but I'm coming because that's how I roll. And thank you everyone who's joining us on the Facebook Live as well. If those of you who are not in the Zoom chat have questions, I can see your comments and conversation a little bit on the Facebook Live. So please do share your questions there. I'll be happy to pass them on to Madeleine for you. All right. So Bill, I'm going to start with you, my friends. Hello again, Bill.
Hello again.
Bill is an author, and the authors who come to book club know that I pick on them more. Because I know that you have some insights into the writing process and into storytelling. And so you might have some particular questions. You've already asked a really good question, but do you have any other questions for Madeleine or for the rest of book club about our reads this month?
I don't. I feel like the questions I did have were pretty thoroughly answered. So I don't have anything else.
And they were good questions too, Bill. But I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start. Bill's been one of my compatriots behind the scenes, helping with the virtual book club. So thank you for that, Bill. And is a wonderful writer in his own right. So you can all find out more about Bill. So whilst we are taking a moment for everyone to cogitate on any questions, Madeleine, I did want to touch to you a little bit about we've touched on it quite a bit in this first initial volley of conversation, but you do really focus on the economic divides and the class system in the stories, which I really appreciate. I think one of the hallmarks of good steampunk fiction is a little bit of social commentary, a little bit of analysis of the past, and that the cultural divides across class are often ignored. So when you started writing the stories, did you think about that from the beginning, that you wanted to pick apart the class divides, especially setting it in Boston as you did?
The answer to that is yes. In probably anything you read of mine, I deal with classism, sexism, and racism, but I try to do it in a way that it's organic with the world and I'm not browbeating people with it. I like to show the functional reality of it, of what happens when you behave this way or these structures exist. And it may be because I have a BA in politics from UC Santa Cruz, which is a more liberal institution. And it also, as a storyteller, it provides very good organic conflict. You don't have to manufacture it. When you have a world like that, it's just going to be there. So a lot of times when I'm writing and I go back, I do a lot of rewriting, by the way. I mean, a lot of rewriting. And if I'm stuck on something or something's not quite working, often the solution is already there. I just have to go back and find it. And which is always interesting, because it's like, wait a minute, because when we used to be able to go to the gym and I'd be on the elliptical and let my brain go free for a while, and there'd be a problem I'm trying to solve in a story, and it was like, well, wait, it's there. The solution is right there. And so I just have to remember to pull it out and make it accessible to everyone. So yeah, those are three constant themes. And also you'll see a lot of times I will put 2 to 3 very different people together who have different strengths and different weaknesses, but by combining them, they're stronger. And so that's what Caitlin, Samuel, and Granville are. They're both all, individually, they're all smart, intelligent people with very different points of view, but you put them together and they're a force to be reckoned with. And they're much stronger together than they are apart. And that's kind of my theme of my life, of like, diversity breeds strength, not weakness. And to think otherwise is, well, that's another conversation.
I do love that you put an emphasis on the collaborative nature of their relationships. I think that's really beautiful. I mean, I have a perspective. I'm a linguist by training, so it's like, oh, good, we're going to talk about classism. It's my favorite. All right, so Cindy, hello, my darling. I'm coming to you because I know you often have to finish up sooner as you are into time zone.
I admit I'm actually rereading the book while I'm listening to everybody, just because it made me think of it. So I'm rereading Steampunk Grad, and I'm just at the end where Tinker is saving everybody.
Tinker's my favorite character in this particular compilation.
So you said Granville was a real character, and I know in the graphic novels Tesla and Edison are there. Are there any other historical characters you've woven in?
In the graphic novel,
Okay.
In the original graphic novel, a 6-issue miniseries, which, like you said, you can read online. It's Bell, Edison, Tesla, and Houdini.
Right.
And Tesla and Granville are in the first standalone sequel, Scourge of the Mechanical Men.
Okay.
And then in the second one, Spirit of Rebellion, it's basically a Caitlin story. So it's a Caitlin Samuel story. Because I just wanted to focus on, just kind of narrow the focus a little bit. And because of the budget constraints of doing a graphic novel, I can only afford doing X amount of pages. So you really have to compress the story. And unlike with prose, where you have a little more freedom to get deeper into things, I was able to do that. But yeah, and then I actually introduce a new scientist. She's fictional in Spirit Rebellion, named Alma, who Caitlin meets. And then I bring everybody back together again in Ghosts and Demons, the last sequel that just came out.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. Great question. Thank you, Madeleine. All right. Robin, you've been so patient. Do you have a question for our author guest?
Well, I haven't read into the later graphic novels, but I plan to. But I'm curious because you mentioned doing so much research about the Irish. If at any point in your books, or if you plan in the future of doing anything with the Fenian Brotherhood, which I find a very, very fascinating little bit of history, particularly on the bit where they invaded Canada, which is something they do not teach you in school. They show you, they do Swift's I'm blanking on it, but that's that lovely little piece suggesting eating children, which they give you a no context in English class, and I'm just horrified. Like, why does this piece exist? And going back and learning, the history and what actually happened to the Irish, that piece of satire completely makes sense that Jonathan Swift wrote. But with, it's like all that history; those are things they don't tend to teach.
Yes, they don't teach us a lot. Yes, quite a bit. In answer to the question, no, I hadn't had any plans on it, but never say never. Yeah, never say never. Something strikes me that if I think it will fit into the larger universe and be able to mean something and have some import with the characters, then yeah. But yeah, not at this moment.
So Bill mentions in the comments that piece is called A Modest Proposal by Mr. Swift. And it is, you definitely need the context for that satire to make sense. Very important, pivotal piece. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. All right. Robin, great question. I love talking about the Fenian Brotherhood. It's all wrapped up in that linguistics. Anne. Hello, Anne. Do you have a question for our author guest?
No, I'm just enjoying everything. Like I said, the one character where she kept him, even just through the little short story, how you kept him who he is from the beginning of that little story to the end. He's not like, oh, this whimpering little kid, and then kaboom, this magic thing happens. He's like this very not centered, but realized young man, young boy, and very matter of fact. And he's that way from when you first see him on the floor to when Samuel leaves. So, it's my favorite character. And I love how realized in that small, compressed, I really liked it. I enjoyed how you made him real to me.
Thank you. Well, I have to, they're all pretty real to me too. They just all live up here.
Well, you've spent 11 years with these characters, so you have a real attachment to them, I'm presuming.
Yes, of course. Yes.
They are very real on the page. I felt very attached to them. And I have to admit that reading about Tinker, the rat, I was literally biting my nails. Tinker died! Oh no, Tinker! I was so worried for Tinker the entire time. Also, I hated the grandmother. So.
Oh, Beatrice Wellsmore.
I think she has a reason for why she is the way she is, but.
Yeah, she does. I'm actually in the process of rewriting the first novel that will be a series of novels set 35 years before the start of all this, during what I call the House Wars, which is the equivalent of the American Civil War. And Beatrice Wellsmore is one of the main characters.
Oh, fantastic.
Because I really wanted to do a middle-aged woman who had power and and it wasn't just shunted aside and ignored. I mean, she's head of House Wellsmore, and you see some of that. You see a little bit of when she in her lighter side. But she's still very fierce.
Excellent. Well, as a middle-aged lady, I'm always about those stories.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's pop over to June, my dear June. Hello. Do you have any questions for Madeleine?
I was really interested in who your artists were. I thought that was interesting. But before I say that, I have to talk about my own personal. I said that my mother was born in Boston. She was not only born in Boston, she was a Boston Irish Catholic. And she remembered when they had signs in the window that said no Irish need apply for work. And I'm watching the Murdoch Mysteries, which I had watched before, but I had not seen all of them. My kids decided I should have Acorn, so I have Acorn, and I'm watching all those, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know, that all feeds into. I realize he said in Toronto, but still, it's interesting. And another thing that sort of is interesting is that the reason I especially got Acorn is, have you heard about a series that they had recently? It's called Dead Still. It's about a photographer taking pictures of the dead, you know, how the family set up somebody's, because they didn't have any pictures of the family, and it gets much more complicated. But still, I thought I feel like that's all sort of winding into the spirit photography and photography of the dead and all. So I guess that's not a question, but
that's okay.
That's my own.
It's an interesting comment.
Personal take on things.
You know, I'm not going to be demanding about if it's actually a question or not.
But I was interested in the artists, because I find that I'm not into a lot of graphic novels, but I'm really into Girl Genius, and of course they're doing their own art as well as their own prose.
Yes, they do. It's all in-house. Yeah.
So, but yours has been since the beginning another artist. I mean, you have never done the art for it.
Correct. You don't want me to do the art. That would be bad.
I do think that's interesting, though. So how to have somebody else realize your vision.
It's a combination of, one, hiring a good artist, two, writing a good script, and communication, and figuring out how you're going to work with them. Emily Hugh, I met through a mutual friend, and hired her to do 2 audition pages to see, you know, if she would work. She nailed it. I put her under contract, and what she would do is we go back and forth. She would send me basically, you know, thumbnails of a page. You know, I'd take a look to see where everyone was at and make sure positioning, and sometimes, you know, she would do such a marvelous job on a page that I realized I would have to either delete some dialogue or move it around, which is fine, because I figured, you know, that just makes me try to be a better writer. I need to, you know, really hone in on this, and because I don't want to obscure her wonderful art. I mean, when she knocks it out of the park, I'm not going to hide that under my words. It's just not going to happen. And so yeah, sometimes she would blow up my paneling, and that's okay. I hire artists to be artists, and I don't try to micromanage them. But yeah, there's a lot of give and take, and, you know, same thing with Gwen. I have been very blessed with having 2 wonderful, that's Gwen Tavares. Gwen Tavares did the last 3, both wonderful artists. And we pretty much do the same thing. She sends me thumbnails, I check them out, make sure that the major elements are in the panel, are there. And, you know, she rarely misses something, but occasionally it's like, oh, you know, you got to remember to put this here in the panel. Don't forget that. She'll go like, oh yeah, okay. And, you know, gets it done. And, but yeah, it's all about communication. and also paying them on time, which I do.
One last thing is that Santa Cruz is one of my very favorite places in the whole world. And we spent a sabbatical year. My husband spent a sabbatical year in Santa Cruz, and it's a kick in the head, isn't it?
It's a beautiful campus.
Oh God, it is the best campus in the entire world. Set among the redwoods up there with the banana slugs and everything. I just love it.
Yeah, when I was there, it didn't have a lot of structure to it. So they have more structure to it now as far as...
That may be. When were you there?
I can't say.
Can't say. Because we were there in 1970.
Yeah, later than that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the few places you can get a graduate degree in the history of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time. I'm an anthropologist, so I sat in on anthropology classes when I was there, and I did a lot of wandering around campus and just enjoying the ambiance.
Oh yeah, no, I had a terrific education there. The instructors were outstanding. But yeah, it's not for everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Lovely. I visited the campus a long time ago. It's beautiful. So I wasn't quite cut out for it, but yeah.
I do want to plug before we end another artist. His name is Alejandro Lee, and I had met him. He does Sally Sprocket and Piston Pete. He's done a number of steampunk conventions. He was gone for a year, and he was just coming back, and then COVID-19 hit. But I'd always wanted to work with him and didn't know what project, because I hire female artists for my work. That's what I do. Female artists, period. But I thought, we need to do a coloring book. So Alejandro did our first ever coloring book.
Oh my goodness.
And he did a wonderful, wonderful job. I love what he did. He has got the Tesla tank, and let's see, we get and the Bell Edison, Tesla and Houdini headquarters, and of course it has all the major. We've got Samuel, of course, and Caitlin and Granville.
Oh, that's delightful.
But yeah, this is the back. He did such a great job. So I was so thrilled to have him on board. And then COVID-19 hit. So it's like, but.
Is that available somewhere?
Yes, it is available from me personally through my website, or you can get it through Amazon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, if you have a couple of moments, Madeleine, I'd like to have a couple of last questions from David and Beatrix and Carolius.
Okay.
And then we'll release you into the wilds. David, hello, my dear. Do you have a question for Madeleine?
I only have one small quick question, Madeleine. Which historical person inspired you to do the character of Elizabeth or Caitlin?
Oh, well, those are two different characters.
Oh, well, which character inspired, which historical figure inspired you to make or create Caitlin?
Actually, none. She's a fictional character who I created, her whole world.
Because from what I read, she's like a little bit of a spunk. She's like almost like the tomboy of the team.
Yeah, she is. She does push the envelope of what is appropriate in her world, but she also faces the repercussions of that. And yeah, we actually see that's one of the reasons why the sequels, we very slowly see some of the repercussions of her life choices. And because she's bucking against established norms, you bet they're going to push back. And so, yeah, they're pushing back.
Well, she's a brave soul, I can tell you that.
She's a fantastic character, and not just because she's a ginger. Oh, no, I like that. Oh, thank you, David. All right, Crolius, Beatrix, do you have a question or questions for Madeleine?
Well, the great thing about, being here on the queue is that I can agree with everything that's been said previously, and those were all great questions. And I was just thinking that the sort of general feeling of the book is as if Howard Zinn were doing steampunk. That would be pretty interesting.
I'm sorry, what was the
Howard
question
Zinn,
again?
No question, just an observation.
Okay.
And Howard Zinn being the quintessential Boston historian.
Thank you.
Anyway, all in all, I enjoyed this book very much.
Thank you, Crolius. Thank you, Beatrix. Beatrix and Crolius have also been with me since the beginning of book club 9 million years ago now. So, and Beatrix helps me organize book club behind the scenes and sometimes is our host in person. So thank you both. Thank you, Madeleine, for taking this time and being so generous with yourself and your answers, and for creating these beautiful stories, the graphic novels and Prelude, which was really a wonderful introduction.
Thank you. And don't forget A Storm of Secrets, which is also a prequel to the graphic novel. That's the one that David had in his hand.
Yes, thank you. Now I have an admonishment for everyone. Please go out and review Madeleine's books. Leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads or any place that's public so that people can see how much you loved her work. Reviews really matter, especially right now. Please share her work with the people you think would like to read it. That matters too right now, even more than usual. And then please join us next month as we are going to be reading The Black God's Drum.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, by Mr. Clark. I have heard exquisite things about it. Madeleine, you are welcome anytime. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you. I might be back for that one. I actually heard him speak at a panel at the online Nebula conference this year. Yeah.
We don't have a confirmation that he will be with us next month, but thanks to Mr. Bowden, thanks to Bill, we are working on having him as a guest next month. So
yeah, he's marvelous. He's marvelous. Yeah.
I'm very excited for that.
Can I say how much I enjoyed this particular form of doing the book club, although I loved being in the Antigone books, that we get to have these authors from all over the world, including Australia and all. So
I feel a little spoiled, don't you, June? It's very nice. We've done this at Antigone for a long time, and we love Antigone. It's a wonderful local bookstore that's been in existence since the 1970s. We're very happy to support our independent local bookstores, but they are, of course, constrained in that they must have us use books that they can order from Ingram and return if they don't sell. So I love that this allows us to do more independent authors and shine a light on people who are not part of the, big traditional publisher experience. So thank you, Madeleine, for being here. Thanks for being part of our steampunk community and, creating more of the magic that we love. So.
Well, thank you all for being here and inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back. Maybe we can do the other prose novel in the future.
We can do that.
All right, we'll talk. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Remember what I always say, wear a mask if you must go out, stay home if you can, wash your hands. Please take care of yourselves and each other. You're all treasures in this world. And have a good evening. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.